Here with more is Charles Krauthammer. He's a syndicated columnist and a Fox News contributor. So, Charles, we know that the president wanted this to be a priority of the attorney general. It sounds to me like he's not going to be frog marching anybody in front of the cameras, but he's going to say, we are getting serious about this, and I assume that the attorney general hopes that that will stop what they're calling a culture of leaks. What do you think?
Well, generally speaking, you'd expect something this splashy would be the frog marching of a perpetrator or two, a little bit of handcuffs, a little bit of drama, and actually have cases to present. No cases to present. It makes you think that this is part of Attorney General Sessions trying to keep his job. Now, there's nothing wrong with going about looking for illegal leaks, particularly from the past administration, unmasking and all that stuff. That's right. But given the context, that, to use a word that Henry used, this is clearly an attorney general under siege, being humiliated and attacked by his own president, trying to show that he's a good soldier. I don't think it actually does him a lot of credit having to be so obsequious about the president's demands, but that's the way it is, and that's how he'll keep his job. But
if it keeps the sort of the tweets against him at bay, I guess that maybe helps him do the rest of his job. But from if I can prey upon your previous experience, what is the psychology behind leakers? Like, do you think that are they trying to further a story? Is it out of the goodness of their heart, or do they want fame and fortune, or maybe like they want attention from the press? Where does it come from?
Well, this is a non-medical diagnosis here.
Okay.
Generally speaking, it's people who are committed to a cause and think that the cause will be advanced by the leak. Either a negative cause, meaning you want to bring people down whom you think are hurting the country, or that you want to expose the truth, like in Watergate. I mean, some people, I guess, do it for the glory of it, but leakers generally don't get glorified. You end up like Julian Assange hiding out for 6 years in the Ecuadorian embassy. That's not exactly glory.
So there are two different types of leaks. What Attorney General Jeff Sessions will talk about is the national security-related intelligence information leaks that are criminal. But now, as Ed Henry was suggesting, so we have a new Chief of Staff, General John Kelly. He's coming into a White House that has had leaks about sort of what's going on inside the White House that they don't like either. What can a Chief of Staff actually do to stop that kind of thing?
Fire people who are caught and try to make it very clear that that will be the penalty so that you get a deterrent effect. There was a sense up until Kelly's accession just a day ago that the White House was a free fire zone where if you had a personal enemy or you had certain ambitions thwarted by a rival in the White House, you could just be leaking crazily to try to embarrass, hurt them, or to bring them down. You know, Scaramucci was pretty open about it. He wasn't exactly a secret leaker. He was more of a suicide bomber who took a whole bunch of people down with him. So you've got this culture of free-for-all, and what you needed, and I think Trump did exactly the right thing, you bring in a Marine general who has a sense of chain of command and order to read everybody the Riot Act, and presumably it will reduce the number of leaks in the future, but it ain't going to do a thing about the ones that have already leaked out and which have been so damaging up until now.
I know that I would have never wanted to disappoint Chiefs of Staff, Andy Card or Josh Bolton, when I worked there. If I could ask you just one last question about the other piece of this that Ed Henry brought up, which is the leak in the Washington Post last night about this statement that was written about Don Jr.'s meeting in Trump Tower with the Russian lawyer, that the White House basically said today that the president just weighed in like any father would do. Do you think that that will pass muster with either the press or maybe even the investigation?
There's no way around it. This is bad news for the White House. It's not a felony. It's not criminal to mislead the American people. God knows Bill Clinton did that a million times, and he was nailed for what he said in the deposition, which is a whole different thing. But if lying or misleading were a criminal offense, we'd have to empty out the Congress. Nonetheless, it looks very bad. First, because the White House had said the president was not involved whatsoever. You got that from Jay Sekulow, the president's own lawyer, repeatedly said that. So that is not true. And second, because it implicates the president in an event, the meeting with an agent of the Russian government who was peddling dirt on Hillary, which is the one episode of collusion that is simply undeniable. Again, not necessarily criminal.
Right.
You don't impeach somebody over that, but that is a collusion. Bungled collusion, Keystone Cop collusion is nonetheless a collusion, and you've got the first time the president is involved, even if indirectly and after the fact.
All right. Charles Krauthammer, thank you so much.